Hello, my little ninjas. My name's Mike. This is my YouTube page. And welcome to your 420th episode of Mox Talks. I'm your host, Moxie. And there's our lovely co-host, Boo Bear. Hi, Boo Bear. You're my beautiful baby. You're my beautiful baby. And today is about what are the origins of COVID. Let's see. The rich doubled their income during COVID. Let's see. The top 10 richest people in the world more than doubled their incomes during COVID. Okay? So, I don't know. You tell me what the origins of COVID are. But it's kind of becoming more clear, right? Everybody in here is going to be moderators. I think this is really important. I think it says everything we need to know about inequality on this planet. Because this isn't just, the 10 richest people in America. This is the 10 richest people in the world have more than doubled their money during COVID, which means if Jeff Bezos was worth $200 billion, right, before COVID, $200 billion, right, then that means that he's now worth $500 billion. Hello, Manny.
Hey, how do you know it was me?
I always know.
Oh, you have like a crystal ball or something?
I got 2 crystal balls.
Oh, okay. So, what do I think is happening now? I actually do believe in the conspiracy theories, man.
Do you believe what now?
I actually believe in the conspiracy theory.
Conspiracy
theory
it's
probably came out of the galactic theory.
It's easy to buy into conspiracy theories. I think, I think it's just obvious here what's going on, with the never-ending plague and the rich people doubling their income during COVID. I think it's pretty obvious what's going on here. At least, somewhat, right?
Yeah.
What's going on where you are, Manny?
Nothing, it's just pretty warm over here. It's finally down around 45 degrees.
Oh, yay.
It was like freezing cold over here, like 34, 35.
Yeah. So, you're over on the east side then? Like Eastern Washington?
Oh, no. Yeah, I'm just visiting family.
Yeah. All right. Well, are you, what'd you have for dinner today? Or lunch?
I actually got a burrito from Costa Rica.
Oh, yeah, it was good.
Oh, yeah, you should try Costa Rica, man. It's pretty good.
Right on. Well, I will keep that in mind.
But yeah, I believe it was the Chinese lab theory. And there's so many conspiracy theories saying that Bill Gates' money and that type of research.
Bill Gates, yeah. It's not just Bill Gates. It's the 10 richest people in the world their money has more than doubled. So this isn't, it just seems too like coincidental, right? That somehow, that these things couldn't possibly be tied together, obviously.
Yeah, no, we need to teach a lesson to those people that profit out of people's misery.
I agree with that, Manny.
They need to pay some sort of reparations, though. But what kind of reparations can they pay? Monetary?
Just tax the motherfuckers. They're not taxed. Look at Manny. They're not taxed at the same rate that you are. They're taxed at way lesser rate than you are. Doesn't it make sense that they should just pay at least the same amount as you do?
Yeah, that makes sense, though. But you know what happened, though? Technically speaking, what they're doing, though, and it pisses a lot of people when I say this, but it's true. Technically speaking, what they're doing to minimize or pay no taxes, they're doing illegally. The problem is in order to actually pay almost no taxes, you need like a little army of lawyers, accountants, and financial advisors, which cost a lot of money though. And those financial advisors and those lawyers have access to people in tax haven countries like the Virgin Islands,
Yeah.
or like the city of London, to actually create companies or create financial vehicles, financial entities to hide their money though.
Yeah.
So these people, they might worth a lot of money though, but they don't actually have cash because the cash.
Well, they don't have $500 billion in cash. They have lots and lots and lots of cash, more cash than you or I are going to make in our entire lifetimes by far. They have tons of cash. They just have many other assets besides that.
Exactly. And the other thing, for example, Peter Thiel. Have you heard about that guy, Peter Thiel?
Sounds familiar.
It's one of those Silicon Valley magnates. He used to be the founder of PayPal with Elon Musk back in the day, but now he's the owner of Parity, one of those spy companies. One of those companies that spy for the NSA. Anyways, one of the things that they use in order to pay as little as tax as possible, all of their assets and all of their money, they put it in a Roth IRA account.
Yeah. No, I get it, Manny. They have all kinds of games that they play with the tax code, which, is legal, but it's not right. I mean, this is just, we have to move beyond. Look, the rich don't need all these tax breaks. The rich are going to make plenty of money without all the tax breaks. You make them pay the exact same rate that you're paying, Manny, which they should pay tons more. You make them pay the exact same rate that you're paying, and and at least, what I want to say is that they're still going to make tons and tons more money than you can possibly imagine. So what's the problem with being taxed at a proper rate,
Because people are greedy, and once they feel like they want to take my money away, they want to walk away. You know what? I don't want to live in this place. It's not worth to be this anymore. I want to be moving to a place where I can save money, though.
Yeah, let fucking Bill Gates move out of the Seattle area. Let Jeff Bezos move out of the fucking Seattle area. Like, I could give a fuck. Those people donate. They make nothing better about the Seattle area. And again, they could be changing the course of human history, and all they give a fuck about is making money. Okay? So, those people, I just so hope there's a special place in hell for them. Nobody deserves it more.
Another thing that you have to be, you know what they're moving though, to avoid taxes? They're moving to South Dakota. They're moving to Reno, Nevada.
I know, they're moving to fucking Texas. I get it, dude. They're, it's.
Florida as well.
Yeah, I get. Look, I just would be very happy if Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates moved out of this state fucking permanently and were never welcome back again. I would have no problem with that whatsoever.
Well, I mean, I've been reading. I was reading this on the Bloomberg magazine. All the richest people, they're moving in. They're making residency in Puerto Rico, Florida, Texas. Especially the most surprising, Nevada and South Dakota.
Nevada's not that surprising, but
South Dakota apparently within the last 10 years, South Dakota it's becoming one of the top destinations for people who want to.
Right, but they're not actually moving there. They're not actually living there. They're just relocating their assets to look like it's coming from there. They live. Bezos and Gates live here. And you know why? The Northwest is a better quality of life. So please fucking move to Texas, you piece of shit, Jeff Bezos. Okay? Nobody needs you here, and you don't deserve the quality of life that we have. Fuck you.
And you live in Medina, man? I think Bill Gates still lives in Medina. He lives now in London because he got divorced.
Yeah. Well, so does I don't know about Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos, by the way, just spent $500 $500 million to have a new yacht built for him. 500 million, $500 million to build a new yacht. I don't know if it's in the water yet, but I can tell you he's spending that on it. And you know why? And that yacht is just there to follow around his first yacht. And you know what? Which I'm sure cost $500 million also. But his second yacht is just there to follow the first yacht. And you know why? You know why he needs a second one? Because his new girlfriend is a helicopter pilot, and there's no helicopter pad on the first yacht. So we got to build a second $500 million yacht. So with a helicopter pad for my girlfriend. Fuck that piece of shit. You know what could be done with $500 million? You know how much difference you can make? A fuck ton of difference. That's how much.
Wow. You can feed an entire family with that much.
Yeah, well,
For life.
What?
So you can feed an entire family with that for life.
Yeah, well, you can feed, look, dude, you can feed half of fucking Washington State with that for life, okay? So, I mean, all you gotta do is put it in a bank, put it in some kind of thing where it makes 10% a fucking year, and you're good, man. Look, I gotta go, Manny. I'm glad to hear from you, and I really appreciate your input, because I know you know a little bit about this for sure.
Awesome, man. Take it easy.
Okay, nice to hear from you. All right, so that's our buddy Manny. He's in Eastern Washington, and he's an accountant. And a fairly, I don't want to call him well-informed, but he pays attention to what's going on. So he has a pretty good, he's kind of an inside eye on this stuff. Now, let's see. According to the OXFAM report, and for those of you who don't know what OXFAM is, OXFAM is, what is OXFAM? OXFAM is a British-founded confederation of 21 independent charitable organizations focusing on alleviation of global poverty. Founded in 1942. So they've been doing this, paying attention to what rich people make and inequality for a long, long time, and they come out with these reports fairly regularly. So I'm not sure, if anything can be done about this. But the reason that I'm pointing it out, I don't think that these people can be taxed at a higher rate. And the reason I don't think that is because they own every single member of Congress. Every single member of Congress is their bitch. So I don't see a big change coming up anytime in what the rich are going to pay. That being said, when you connect the 10 richest men more than doubling their fortunes during COVID-19, I think it becomes kind of like this, is that a coincidence kind of thing, or is this like the plan? Because it's just, doubling your income in 2 years when you're the richest person in the world seems like, it might take, I don't know, how long does it take you to build up that income? It took you 20, 30 years to make, become this rich. And then in a 2-year period, you more than double your fortune, right? You need to, I don't know. To me, this is pretty obvious. When I hear this kind of information, it becomes super obvious as to what is happening. Well, it just like I said, it's just too damn coincidental, I need to have a bong hit. Hello, caller.
Hello.
What's happening?
You're kind of breaking up. What's up, man?
What's happening?
Oh, not much. Breaking the flaw? That's called before.
So, yeah, go ahead.
I'm live on air now.
Yes, you are.
I usually get the screen.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to call in and and let everyone know about this exciting news happening in New Hampshire. This regards all the things that the federal government's doing. And I wish like other liberty-minded people were here in New Hampshire. But today, I live streamed the events down at the State House. We had a secession committee hearing.
Yeah.
And we discussed, removing ourselves from the federal government. How's that sound? It was a packed crowd. The whole place was packed. We met the limits.
Yeah, that's fantastic news, man. I'm really glad to hear that. New Hampshire, by the way, people, is the live free or die state, correct?
Damn right.
Yeah, the live free or die state. So I can't imagine really a better place to have a actual discussion in your government about secession. Although a better place for me would be Washington. But yeah, I'm really glad to hear that. So what was the gist of the conversation? What did you get out of it?
Well, currently the legislation is just to get to a vote, for the public to vote, the people of New Hampshire to vote on this, and we're going to be 2/3 of a vote, like 2/3 yes for it to actually happen.
Yeah.
And basically, we're trying to convince the committee, which I don't think they were in favor of it. It doesn't matter. This is a constitutional amendment,
Yeah.
and this has to go onto the House floor for vote with a roll call, so then we'll know exactly who and who's not against, who's for and against this secession opportunity, and which is just fascinating. When's the last time a state actually got to vote on something like this? Like, it has been forever ago. Actually, I don't think Texas was even bringing it up, and I think California is considering these things, but it's not going to get to where it is in New Hampshire right now. And just one more thing is that the reason why this is all happening is because we pushed for it. We're actually like stepping up to our game, and when I say we, I say the Free Staters. The Free State Project has convinced a lot of people, I mean thousands of people, to move to New Hampshire for more liberty. And in that essence, it's like to try to change the laws to make it better. And now we finally got the secession legislation in there. And we call it New Hampshire independence. Like, we want independence.
Yeah.
And we want peaceful removal from the federal government. And we're offering the peaceful solution because we know that, like, when the shit hits the fan and the federal government wants to come down on New Hampshire, it's not going to be peaceful. They're not going to allow us to have that happen. And we're offering the peaceful solution. So, we're getting there.
Yeah, it's
really
really
getting there. We're really making differences and strides. Actually, they're shaking in their boots. Democrats are shaking in their boots. And I'm not saying we're Republican per se. Most of us are really anarchists.
Yeah.
Or libertarian, voluntarists.
Right.
We just use the Republican ticket to get into office, and it's working. And we're making change. And they honestly, the representatives are just keep on coming up to us like, you guys are making change finally. And like, good. We're bringing liberty back to New Hampshire. And I wish other liberty-minded people would come to New Hampshire to enjoy that fruit.
Can you tell me, do you have an idea? Number one, I'm really glad to hear all that. I'm super glad. I'm glad that they're offering the peaceful option because when that's refused, you can always look at it and say, hey, we tried to do this peacefully, which is important.
Yes.
But can you tell me why, it being the live free or die state, why they haven't legalized weed yet?
Okay, this is a good question. Actually, so they have decriminalized it, and they also have it for medical. Now, this is funny because like you asked that, but really they're not enforcing it. Maybe larger towns with like distribution and growing all this shit, they find it. But like I was arrested with my friend, and not only was he open carrying, but he also me too. But not only was that he was open carrying, but he also had a blunt in his pocket when he got arrested.
Yeah.
They gave back the gun and the blunt at the same time. This didn't happen to him once, but twice in my presence when he got arrested. Twice.
With a gun? He was arrested with a gun? Is that what you say?
Yeah, he was arrested with the gun, which was totally legal here in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
I was open carrying to my state house along with other people.
Yeah, good.
You can't do that anywhere else in the country.
I love open carry. I hope you know that. I think it's a important thing.
Don't get me wrong. Like I definitely carry my gun everywhere, but I'm not going to like always have it open.
Yeah.
When you go to a grocery store, maybe it's not appropriate. But sometimes, like I do, if it's like an odd time and I feel like maybe sketchy people are there, and the gun is going to deter people, right?
Yeah, that's why I love open carry, is because, you know, a friend of mine died at an ATM machine because some shithead wanted his cell phone. And I know that if him or someone else standing there had open carry, you know, that fucking shithead would have thought twice before, you know, approaching them.
Yeah.
So I really love the open carry. So.
To go back to the secession part, though, real quick, it made it funny because you look like a friend of mine that was there, and his name is literally, legally, nobody. Okay.
Yeah.
And he wrote his name down to testify, and they're like, "Is nobody here?" Like, and he's like, "I'm nobody." And he ran for governor and stuff.
Nice.
This is the first time he was able to publicly speak since his federal arrest. When the feds came into New Hampshire, raided my friends' places, terrorizing the community, used tanks, smashed in windows, doors, and used drones.
Yeah.
Just because they were selling Bitcoin. This is like my big reasoning for the secession movement. And these are things that my friends can't say because they're on gag orders. They can't mention this stuff. So I can. And the reality is that the feds violated their 10th Amendment rights for New Hampshire, and they violated many other rights, like against my friends in this case. But Bitcoin is code on a computer, and New Hampshire declared that crypto is code, a computer, which code is free speech. So the feds came in, blatantly violated First Amendment rights to the highest degree, arresting my friends. They call them the Crypto Six. If you go to the crypto6.com, you'll see the raid happening, them smashing in windows with the Bearcats, sending in drones. It's crazy what they did to my friends.
Yeah.
But this is exactly why we need secession. So these 5 agencies can't come to New Hampshire and terrorize my friends, neighbors, whatever. This is absurd what they did, and I'm glad that 3 of my friends were able to testify. The 3 of the Crypto Six were able to testify today. And you might know one of them, Aria DeMezzo. She's a transgender Satanist that ran for sheriff.
I might have known. I think I have seen something about her.
Yeah, she's a co-host of mine on Free Talk Live.
Nice.
It's similar to like your show. That's why I love what you're doing on your channel here. But it's a bigger platform, right? Like this is a syndicated radio show.
Oh.
I encourage everyone to call in, and I'm not just trying to advertise. This is a way we can get free speech out and get millions of people to listen to what you have to say.
Yeah,
it is syndicated, so
yeah. That's awesome, dude. I that's all I want to do is have a conversation. I don't want to tell people what they're supposed to think. I want to discuss it, so that we can both have we can everyone can listen to both sides and then figure out what they believe. I'm not here to tell you what to think. So let me ask you real quick while it's on my mind. There's a new movie called Nobody. Have you seen that?
Yes, I did. I look, call me a conspiracy theorist, but they wrote that movie after my friend. they ripped them off. They ripped them off completely.
I love that movie. I've watched it like 5 times. I think it's a great movie. I love the director. The director, the writer. It's his second film. He also directed Hardcore Henry. Have you seen that one? It's all shot first. Like the whole movie, the entire movie is shot first person, out of Henry's eyes.
Oh yes.
Yeah, it's a great movie
I do remember that.
I love that director, dude. He's got a bright future. I'll tell you.
I think you'd be very much entertained by Nobody's platform. Like,
Yeah.
He had, I don't know if he still has the website or not for governor, but like the platform goes like this, and there's a shit ton of like yard signs all over New Hampshire, and people still have them when he ran for governor, and it goes, nobody knows what's best for you, nobody wants to run your life, and so vote nobody.
Yeah, that's great, dude. That is awesome.
Yeah, man. Hey, I appreciate you letting me call in.
What's your name?
Have a great night, and Well, I'm breaking the flaw.
Okay, nice to hear from you, Break.
Yeah, man. You do it.
All right, stay cool, bro.
You too.
All right, so I love this information about New Hampshire because I still don't understand why they haven't legalized weed. Although he says that they're not doing anything about it, and that's the way it's kind of been for a long, long time. You know, I've had cops take joints off of me in the past multiple times, and give it back. I was in the back of a cop car. Well, they found a joint on me one time, which is really weird. I was holding it in my hand. That's what it was. I had an ounce of weed over here and a vial of liquid acid over here. And they didn't find those things, but they put me in the police car, and as soon as I got in, they gave me my joint back, and they said, "Don't be lighting that up over here. Don't be lighting that up while you're in the car." Don't worry. So yeah, that's a pretty good story. We'll get to that later. I've told it before. At any rate, I think this is really important. I think this says a lot about where humans are at this moment in history. You know, that the 10 richest people in the world have more than doubled their income over the COVID period. So the last couple of years, the richest people in the world have doubled their money. And I just can't imagine that being a coincidence. You know, it's one thing to, you know, make another 25% of your already considered massive wealth. You know, oh look, we added 25%, you know, 50%. They more than doubled their income in 2 years. More than doubled. Okay, so I think this is really important. I think it's really important consideration when we're trying to understand what's been happening in our world for the last 2 years. I think it's a really, really important factor that needs to be considered right at the top of the list. I mean, it doesn't have to be the first thing, but it should be right there, top 5 things that we need to talk about because of the rich people. What's up, Jade?
Hey, it's bring it along again. Real quick, as you did say nothing about the cannabis thing. Just want to say this real quick. There is legislation. This isn't going to go to a vote in the public. This is going to be legislatively passed, possibly. But cannabis is going to be completely decriminalized, legalized, whatever you call it, to the highest extent. As in, you can grow it, you can sell it, you can possess it, and to any amounts. That's what legislation's on the table right now in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And it's a good chance it could pass. And there's another legislation for all drugs to be legalized.
That sounds like the live free or die state that I know and love right there.
Exactly, and the only reason these laws are in place right now is because of federal guidelines. So technically, if we erase the federal government to secede, none of these drug laws will actually even be in place. New Hampshire will have to set its own drug laws.
Yeah.
They just follow what the Fed's guidelines are. So essentially, all drugs will be legal if we secede.
I think this is a big part of the problem, honestly, is that all these things, not all these things, but so much of the stuff that's going wrong, especially at the poverty level, has almost everything to do with drugs. The whole lot of drugs being illegal, okay? Because 80% of crime is a statistic that I understand is directly related to drugs being illegal, you know, street drugs, the black market. Yeah. You know, they talk about how evil the black market is. There is only one way to end the black market, and that's to make everything legal. So you take all this money from the cartels and you give it to your neighbor. You know, I mean, why the fuck would you want to give all this money to these fucking horrible, you know, people who murder and rape and do all this stuff? That's where all this money goes right now. And we want to act like we're completely stupid and have no idea. That's exactly where all this money goes, and all you're doing is continuing the crime, making the crime bigger and bigger, you know, because I don't know why.
It's the feds that are doing this with New Hampshire. So, like, New Hampshire is not making any extra money off of these arrests or anything like that. There is no incentive other than getting drugs off the streets. Bullshit. You know, and it's the federal government that's really making out on all this stuff. It's the New Hampshire really doesn't want this anymore. Like the courts are fed up with all these little frivolous little drug possessions and
Yeah.
stuff. They're going to get rid of it. It's all going to go away.
I sure
And,
hope.
I'm hoping they release everyone that's been convicted for this shit too. So it's a beautiful thing, guys. You don't even know. Like, all right, I'm not going to say certain things on the air because I don't want it. But like when it comes to the stuff, but let's just put it this way: when raids happen here, if they're going after specific things, they don't go after, say, your drugs on the table. You know, they
Yeah.
don't go after that specific thing.
Yeah.
And they don't give a fuck. They don't care. If you're doing it in your home or whatever, on your own accord, as long as you're not doing it in public and, like, you know, at the bar or something stupid like that, they don't care. They just want, like, this is live free or die. This is the leave me the fuck alone state.
Yeah.
And if you're not bothering anybody, they'll just leave you alone.
I
That's
think
how it goes here.
I think that sounds really. I look at the home should be a place that, you know, your world, not, oh, all these laws apply to me when I'm in my home. No, if you're out dancing naked on the fucking freeway, then yeah, we better find out what kind of substances you're taking, because you're putting more people in danger than just yourself. But you know, if you're at home and you're tripping, if you're doing whatever the fuck, I don't give a shit. I could care less. It's your
Yeah.
life. You should be able to live it the way you choose. Absolutely, 100%.
And it's all about education. So, like, what I think it's a responsibility for, since all this time they try to hide not just the value of some drugs. I'm not saying all that's good, right? Like, I'm just saying the values of them. Is it good for you? Is it bad for you? What kind of thing is it going to happen to you? Is it helpful, or is it going to hurt you?
Yeah.
These are educational things that need to be spoken, and because of the stigmas of being so illegal and so, like, horrible, that's when people OD. That's when people
Right.
don't know how to consume things properly. Like, I wish people would educate people not to eat too many fucking cheeseburgers, because too many cheeseburgers is what's really causing a problem in this country.
I agree.
You know? Okay. So I'm gonna let you go now, Thiel.
Wait, I think
go ahead,
that
go
you were
ahead.
saying that part of the problem, or a big part of the problem, is the education, and I agree. I think that that's a big part of the problem, and I see, if all drugs were legal, I don't want them decriminalized. I want them legal, because if they're decriminalized, then you still have the black market, and that's a problem. But if you legalize them and you want to get your cocaine, your meth, your heroin for the weekend, then you go to the party store. Okay, and then at the party store there'll be information about how to get help. You know, and not just that, it's that if you're looking for help and you're all strung out on heroin, you don't have to worry about going to jail, because I guarantee
Right.
a lot of those people who desperately want help are terrified of going to jail. So
It's also like, once you put things out on the white market or the gray market, just not the black market, right? So if it's out in the open in some way or fashion, that there's a responsibility, there's a reputation, there's accountability, and like, it's like when you have weed's not harmful, but let me get to the point here, is like when they open dispensaries and stuff, at least the dispensary can tell you exactly what each thing is doing to you. Like, you know, you go in like, hey, I have this issue,
Right.
and if it doesn't have to be cannabis at this point. You go into a shop, this what you just call it, the
Party store.
Party store. Yeah, you go into the party store and be like, hey, I got this ailment. I mean, is there anything that could really help me? I mean, if there's nothing, I'll go away, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, this thing might help you right here.
Right.
And then they break down, they educate you about it, and then they're like, okay, I think this is something that's right up my alley.
yeah,
And like, you know, people are responsible. I think it is responsible to, like a car dealership. You go into a car dealership drunk. It's the car dealership's responsibility not to sell you the car.
Yeah.
Out there. You know what I mean? It's because you're gonna drive drunk leaving.
Yeah.
And, you know, the same thing with, like, you know, anything else in this world. You go to a bar and you're not gonna leave. You're not supposed to leave drunk. That's up to the bar to determine that. Like, to not overserve you. It is a
Right.
responsibility when you're giving a drug to someone. It is a responsibility factor. However, you better have educated them well enough so that you don't harm them.
yeah.
And I'm not saying people do the drugs themselves, right? But if you didn't educate them enough, it is kind of harming them, right?
Yeah. Well, again, it's not just the information about educating them, and it's not just the fear of getting arrested is also that a lot of this drug abuse comes from mental illness, and these people desperately need help. And if the place they were going to find their drugs was, again, the party store, which would be incredibly inexpensive, okay? How much does an ounce of weed cost you? Okay, I have an ounce of weed right here. It cost me $24. Okay, so you go to the party store, you get this off the street. You know what it costs? It costs fucking $200, easy. Okay,
Right.
So I go there, $24. Okay, so imagine that's like 1/10 the cost. So imagine that across the board.
And you know for a fact that cannabis really, at the end of the day, if it wasn't any regulations, it'd probably be like $5 a pound. You know what I mean?
Well, I would hope that everybody was growing it in their backyard and just sharing it with their neighbors and stuff. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
All right, man, I'm gonna let you go. I appreciate it again. Thank you so much.
Hey, it's good to hear from you.
Have a good night, man.
Always. Look forward to hearing from you soon. Okay.
Yep.
All right. I think it's time for a bong hit after that discussion. And this is a big part of the discussion that has to be had. All these people are just hating on drug users. Oh, these fucking meth heads, these junkies. They're the one fucking up the world. Not Jeff Bezos, not Bill Gates, not Elon Musk. And all of these fucking pieces of shit, they're the ones who keep drugs illegal. You know this, right? They're in charge. They own Congress, right? They own every single member of Congress, which means if they said, hey, we want drugs to be legal, Bezos, Gates, Musk, if they said, hey, we need to have all drugs legal, this would happen tomorrow. Okay, but they don't believe in freedom any more than Joe Biden, okay, who hates freedom. These fucking cunts, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, they hate your freedom. They don't want you to have nearly as much freedom as you have. And like most of your freedom's already been taken away. Woo! All right, so where were we? We were talking about something. Ah, yes, freedom. I think it becomes pretty obvious that again, these rich people, they don't want you to have freedom. In fact, they're very threatened by your freedom. They don't want you to have freedom of choice. They don't want you to have, anything that freedom really entails. They don't want you to be able to do right. They don't want you to be able to go to the same resorts that they go to. They don't want you lying on the same beach that they lie on. They don't want you anywhere near them. They don't want you to get anywhere close to them. They hate you. They hate you and your freedom. And this comes back to something that I've said a lot, and that's that humans are dangerous, right? And you may not think of yourself in those terms. The thing is, as I've said before, I will bite you on your fucking face. Okay, I will bite you on your fucking face. I'm not joking. Okay, so humans are dangerous in that in that way because they're unpredictable and they have the ability to hurt you if they choose to do so. So I think this is a big part of why Bezos and Musk and Bill Gates hate your fucking freedom. Also, it's not just that. If you are really, exercising your freedom, you might be a threat to them monetarily also. You might actually somehow make a business that competes with them if you actually have freedom, which you do not. Why? Because again, the rich fucks own the Congress. And when you understand that, you begin to understand that everything that's wrong with our world is tied to these fucking, top 10 richest pieces of shit on the planet who just doubled their income during COVID. I'm sorry, more than doubled their income during COVID. So, I don't want to be them. I don't want to know them. I know rich people. They're just not happy. They're just not. And I don't understand why. It's not just that they have everything they could possibly want. It's that if there was anything that they wanted to make happen in the world, they could do it. Like maybe, I don't know, save the manatees. Okay? And I know people are like, oh, the manatees can't be saved. There's all this boat traffic in there, right? Well, how about Elon Musk buys this general area and says, yeah, no more boat traffic through here. And you know what? And he goes, all right, so we'll make this way so that you can get around. We'll make a new waterway so that this isn't an issue for you. The richest people in the world would have no trouble doing that. The problem is they don't give a shit about you, about the world, about the manatees. It couldn't matter less to them. And again, these people aren't happy. You could see when Elon Musk did Saturday Night Live, you could tell that he just wasn't like a happy person, and they have all the money they could possibly have. And more. Well, they just doubled their income, so they have more than they could ever have. So I don't know where we go from here. But I'm going to play a quick video about the rich people having everything, and I'll be right back. I'm going to go heat up my tea. I'll be right back.
A concerning report from Bankrate.com tonight after a survey reveals less than half of Americans can financially handle an unplanned emergency expense, such as a car repair or emergency room bill. More than a third of adults asked said they'd need to borrow money if the expense was more than $1,000. It's a problem we are seeing globally. The divide between the rich and the poor continues to grow, and fast, as the pandemic stretches on.
Reporter Kevin Cork has more on a new study that's shedding light on the damaging effects of income inequality and a possible solution.
The pandemic has been a billionaire bonanza.
New data from anti-poverty group OXFAM finds the coronavirus pandemic has escalated the growing wealth gap.
Billionaire growth double at the rate of $15,000 per second.
Researchers found the 10 most affluent people in the world more than doubled their fortunes throughout the ongoing health crisis, while roughly 160 million people sank below the poverty line. And OXFAM officials say this gap comes with very deadly consequences.
Inequality is contributing to the death of one person every 4 seconds through preventable, solvable problems. Hunger, lack of access to health care, and at a time like this, lack of access to vaccines.
Meanwhile, the lack of vaccines for poorer nations is an area of major concern for health officials, who say more people need to get the shots to stop the spread of the virus and to keep it from further mutating. Heads at OXFAM believe taxing billionaires is a solution to vaccine disparity and ending the pandemic.
If one were to tax the 10 wealthiest people, the 10 billionaires, on the profits made during the pandemic at 99%, which is a very high amount, of course, we would be able to pay for vaccines for the whole world.
Well, that was Kevin Cork reporting, and OXFAM data also finds of the poorest nations in the world, only 7% of people have had at least one COVID-19 shot.
Wow, and comparing that to those who live in wealthy nations where the average is around 75%.
So what I was saying is, right, these people, these top 10 richest people in the world have more than doubled their income during the COVID outbreak, during the pandemic, during the plague. And they've more than doubled their money, which means if, let's say, Jeff Bezos was worth $200 billion, that means he's worth close to $500 billion now, right? Not income, their net worth, their net value. So $500 billion, which means, you know, he's making about, right now he's making about $100 billion, let's see. Yeah, about $150 billion a year. Okay, $150 billion a year. So a year. So that means you could take, I don't know, 10%, $15 billion. You know, are you gonna miss, if you actually pay your proper amount of taxes, are you gonna miss $15 billion out of $150 billion? Seriously? Hello, caller.
What's up, Mark? This is Brandon.
Hey, B. Nice to hear from you.
Hey. Oh, yeah, man. Yeah, hey, but everything we're talking about, the sad part about all that is, everybody's okay with it. You know? I mean, like we all see it, but we're okay with it, you know? And it's in the masses. Like, I'm not okay with it.
Yeah.
Like, I was pretty dumbfounded during the pandemic when, what was it, Bezos made $18 billion in one day.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But obviously, everybody's okay with it. I mean, if you're really going to storm the Capitol, do it over something like fucking that, healthcare or something, man. You know, shit.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, but that's just ridiculous, dude.
Yeah, $18 billion in a day. Like I said, you take that $18 billion and you put it towards something important in humanity, and he's never gonna miss it for one fucking second.
Nah, man, but it's like a pissing contest with all those wealthy people.
Yeah. Well, it's like
it is.
Yeah, it's like, I agree. It's my dick is bigger than your dick with all those fucking cunts.
My rocket's bigger than your rocket.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Which is exactly what I'm saying. If I was one of those guys, I would spend all my time harassing the other ones. I donate plenty of money, but I'd spend pretty much every second of every day trying to fuck with Bezos, trying to fuck with Gates, trying to fuck with Elon Musk, like hiring like an elite squad of criminals that are constantly breaking into the house, stealing their cars, all kinds of shit like that, you know. I would be fucking with them day and night, let me tell you.
Yeah, that's pretty much just what they do. But it's like the commercial, not the commercial, but the news article talks about like most Americans don't have $1,000 to pay to fix their car.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Like if they even gave a shit, then they should just create car care centers where if you ain't got no fucking money, take your car there and they'll fix it for free.
Yeah.
You know, and that create jobs that way. You know, the fucking tax write-off is the non-profit. Therefore, you got to pay less taxes than what the fuck you don't pay now.
Yeah, they probably make more money by doing that than, you know, by the tax breaks on that than they would, you know, not doing that. That's exactly what I'm talking about, is that, you know, these people could donate massive amounts of money to make incredible things happen around the world, and they don't do anything like that. So, you know, they're just, there's not bigger scum. And you're saying people are good with their wealth. I think we kind of worship the wealthy in this country. You know, it's like
Forbes 500 or whatever. Forbes, you know, they want to see if they make it on the Forbes. You know, it's just so ridiculous, man, that it is really just fucking ridiculous. And it's sad that we've gotten that we are doing it and we're allowing it. You know, it's just like as much as we want to sit here and tone our fucking guns and our fuck you mentality, and we can say whatever the fuck we want, at the end of the day we don't.
Yeah.
We all are just like fucking sheep at the end of the day. That's because we ain't changing shit at the end of the fucking day. I'm.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No. I mean, just period. We're. It's so weird to me that that children don't have health care for free when that's the future of this country.
Right.
It's children.
Yeah.
And senior citizens built this country, so they shouldn't have to pay for health care. That's just me. Everybody else in the middle, hey, if you can work, you be all right. You know what I'm saying?
Look, no, it's not. Look, Brandon, no, that's not the way it should be. Okay, it should be free health care for everyone. And the reason being is that if people are, sick, we don't want them spreading that throughout their fucking company. I mean, that's what the plague here has proven. Yeah. So if you actually allow people to get health care for free, and have a certain amount of sick days every year, then, there's a chance that the entire U.S. economy will run way more efficiently. And make way more money. So why would we, and it's because they don't want people to be healthy. They don't want they want people struggling as much as possible. And I don't know if that just makes the rich feel more rich or what it is, but you would think that they would want to help a whole lot more than they clearly do.
Oh yeah. Listen. It used to be back in the day there was really nobody more important than the Pope. You know what I'm saying? Now there's so many fucking popes. So everywhere they go is lights, cameras, action. And people are praising these people. And personally to me, it probably started with damn Steve Jobs when he died. And it's just all what these people are doing. And it's really not really benefiting nobody but them damn selves.
Yeah.
I mean, which I'm glad we got Apple phones and and Teslas and shit like that and Amazon. But shit, light goes fuck on. I don't need that shit.
You know what? We really don't need any of this stuff that we seem to be consuming. It's so strange that like I don't have a cell phone. And I don't want a cell phone. It's really strange to me that everybody, it's not just want, it's like you have to have one now. You need to have one. If you don't have one, that you can't function in society, the way people do. It's really, I don't know, everything's kind of screwy when it comes to where humanity is, at least in this country. I feel like, people, just the average people could have such a better life if they, let's say they weren't worked to death. Like in Europe, right? Most of the countries there, the people get like 3 or 4 vacations a year, mandated. Right?
Yeah.
And I just think if the people...
the kids, college, everything.
Yeah.
And they get a stipend for having children monthly. They get paid monthly, because they're invested in Germany. Well, I'm talking about the place I'm talking about is in Germany.
Yeah.
But they have to because they kill each other in 2 fucking world wars.
Well, look, I think that there's a matter of priorities, and priorities aren't giving rich people more money. So, why aren't people getting free college? Why aren't people getting, proper vacations? Why aren't, and by the way, Germany is considered to be the place where the population is the most happy, right? Because it's most happy with their government, from what I understand. So I think that's, what's that?
No, I was just going to tell you, when you were saying everything you were saying about how come there's not this, how come there's not free education, at the end of the day, they don't want competition.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody wants competition. That's why they buy it all up. And they know they can't buy people like that. But they can damn near control you. Mm. They can control your job. They control how much you make. They control all the politicians, the laws, and everything. So it's them with just that level of control, but they all have everything at their disposal. They don't want nobody else to have it. You know, and that's the problem. Like, and they're scared of competition.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a part of why we don't have free college, is because they don't want your kids. They don't want your kids going to the same college that their kids are going, because the education that their kids are going to get guarantee a future of whatever they want in the world, as opposed to what the education your kids get. If they're lucky, maybe they'll make a proper income so that they can afford a home. You know. And this is exactly what the rich people want. And it's just like what I was saying with the health care. You know, they don't want you going to the colleges their kids go to. With the health care, they don't want you healthy. And with the vacation thing, they don't want you rested. They want you stressed out and sick and no future for your children. So you got to worry constantly. It's really, this is not the way, again, as I say all the time, this is not the way the top of the food chain is meant to live its life. And you, my friend, are the top of the food chain.
Yeah. It's but when you typically ask people about this topic, they get really tight-lipped, because then it's like they're supporting socialism. Or they're not
right.
supporting capitalism. Really, you're not. You don't want to support crony capitalism,
right?
Because this is crony capitalism at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You know, when how much money do you really gotta hide not to pay taxes? Like, what the fuck do you really want to do?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you don't do so fucking much. You know.
Yeah.
And you know, it's just shit like that. But hey, man, this shit ain't gonna change until a massive extinction, like a fucking die-off, has to occur. All them old fuckers, man. I hate to say it that way.
Well, you know. The previous caller was talking about that there was just a hearing in New Hampshire about seceding from the nation, which is an important discussion to have, and that was in the the political chambers. He said it was televised and everything. He said it was really awesome. And I think it's, anytime they're talking about secession, I love that. Because that's what freedom is. All right? We don't like your fucking rules. We don't want to live by your fucking rules. So we're not gonna be part of your shit anymore. You know? And that's the way everybody works, you know? Oh, I don't like the way, you know, you people do this, so I'm not gonna hang out with you people anymore. You know, and so I love that discussion, and I think that you said the only way this can happen is, you know, if there's a massive die-off. I think that if people start hearing about the secession thing, and the secession thing starts to spread, then maybe it will turn from secession, from leaving the country, from, you know, seceding from our nation, to let's hang these fucking politicians. Or, you know, let's put them in prison for the rest of their lives, because they're the ones that are fucking up our world. I mean, Jeff Bezos and all that. You know, the thing is that when Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates and Elon Musk own every single member of Congress, it's no longer a democracy. And this country was never meant to be a democracy. It's meant to be a republic.
A republic.
Yeah. So, but they call it a democracy all the time. And when all these rich people own the Congress, it's not that. There's no way it's a fucking democracy or a fucking republic. So.
Yeah, but it's, you know, I think America is wounded.
Yeah.
And she's been licking her wounds, and she can't lick them no more. You know, so something's gonna pop.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I don't believe it's what pops is what everyone assumes is going to pop. You know, shit's going to pop to where, oh shit, the truth really comes out now. You know, and that's where they're not going to be able to hide shit anymore.
I look forward to that day, man.
Oh yeah, I think the majority of us do.
Yeah.
But it has to fucking pop off, Mike. You know, I mean, not like war, people shooting each other. I ain't saying that crazy shit. But yeah, but they some crazy. But people need to really find out shit. you know, and then hey, they can be subjective if they want to about how this shit really is, you know. But yeah, it's kind of like maybe everyone needs to really find out about religion. It's this 2,000-year-old book or whatever, you know, or what the hell. But I just think that people are tired, man. You know, and I'm a lucky one. You know what I'm saying, Mox? Like, I'm lucky as hell, man. I have health care because I'm retired military. I get a pension. You know,
you earned
I'm
it.
46 tomorrow.
You earned. Hey, congratulations! You made it.
Man, yeah.
You made it.
Well, I ain't made it yet. I got about a couple more hours. Yeah.
You can do it.
I know, right?
Hey, did you see? I was just showing an ounce of weed on the camera. Did you see that?
Yeah, I seen it. You said $28.
$24. $24. Right.
That right there, an ounce is like almost, depending on what you get, like could be up to $400.
Yeah, here the expensive ones cost about $200. So
yeah.
this is very inexpensive. This is New York Diesel, 21% THC. It's I got it for butter. I need to make a batch of butter tonight, so that's
okay.
Yeah. You know, if I was smoking it, I wouldn't get that. But I don't like buying stuff from the store for smoke because it just never does what I'm hoping it'll do. So this for edibles though, it works fine.
Oh yeah. See, hell, that man.
Yeah, you put this in the crock pot for like 5 or 6 hours, right, on high, and then you wind up with 4 batches of brownies. A batch of brownies, or a batch of cookies. You can put cookies in the freezer. They can last you for months. A batch of brownies usually lasts me about 2 weeks. So yeah.
And snacking, huh?
I wake up in the morning and have a brownie, and when I don't, sometimes I'll leave the house walking. Me and Rufus will go for a walk, and I'll be like halfway through, and I'll be like, damn, I forgot to eat a brownie. So it's an important part of my routine.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's what's up, man.
Well, you hear me all the time, Brandon. I say you're not eating enough cannabis. I think it's important to everyone, and I'll tell you just the basic reason. We've all seen these stories where someone gets cancer and they try everything they can possibly do in the medical field, and then out of desperation they turn to cannabis, and all of a sudden their cancer is gone. And all I think is, it's too bad that you waited until you got cancer to start eating cannabis. And these are the facts. This is why I tell you that you're not eating enough cannabis, because hopefully it will help you to stave off all kinds of free radicals that are out there that are deadly.
Yeah, but it's, you know what though, it's never, well, up until now, it's starting to be promoted for health. Okay, but that damn stigma is still pretty bad.
Yeah, no, one of the things that I complain about the, when it comes to medicine is that they have this alternative motive, right? For-profit medicine is really dangerous thing because they have this alternative motive of making a profit. Now, the American Medical Association, pretty much my entire life, has said marijuana, cannabis, has 0 medicinal qualities, right? 0. They could have been helping millions, probably hundreds of millions of people, and instead they said cannabis has 0 medicinal qualities, right? And why would they do something like that when they could help so many people? And I think it's pretty obvious because they wanted to make a profit. And when you can grow your medicine in the backyard, it's really hard for them to make a profit off of that. So, this is all by, design. And they don't want you healthy. They don't want you happy. They want you overworked and stressed out. Mostly because stress causes, they say stress is the real killer. Stress causes a lot of health issues. So.
Yeah, man. I was listening to I can give a teacher talking about stress.
Yeah.
And he picked up like a glass of water, and he says, you know, how many ounces in this water this class gets? It's like 18 ounces. And he was like, if I hold it for an hour, my arm's going to hurt. You know, and he was just making like stress. Sometimes you got to put it down. You know what I'm saying? And like, hey, it is what it is. You know, let me put it down. Let's just chill out for a little while, and you know,
Right.
and
Yeah,
from there. But yeah,
you have to take a break, and that's one of the things that cannabis helps with the most is the stress factor, and anxiety, and depression, and all of these issues that people have. Like I said, cancer. You know, it's this really important part of being human. It's been taken from us because, again, they don't want us to be healthy. So, you know, we make the cannabis illegal. We vilify it. We say it's the devil's weed. You know, and this whole like. I don't know, and then the American Medical Association piles on. This is why I don't trust for-profit medical medicine, is because my whole life the American Medical Association has been clearly lying to me. So I don't want anything to do with modern medicine that I don't have to do with it. So
yeah, but again, just like I said earlier, about like all the wealth and the wealth thing, we allow this to happen.
Yeah.
Yet, we can come together for shit that don't make no damn sense. You know, but we can't come together for like shit that's real, that we all need.
Yeah.
You know, but see, some people, what I call it is, sometimes they don't want a motherfucker to get a leg up. That makes sense. You know,
it's hard to help some people. There's no doubt about that.
Well, that's not even what I'm talking about. Well, what I'm saying is, at least if everyone's born and they got to be in a wheelchair, then pretty much everybody's going to be on a lift. Okay, but because they want competition, they make sure that we don't have a level playing field.
Yeah, the last thing they want is a level playing field. I mean, like I said, they want you stressed out, overworked, and not healthy. They want you not healthy, stressed out, and overworked. All of these things are going to lead to you not having much of a future. So.
Yeah, but can you imagine that if everyone was on a level playing field? And I ain't talking about born a millionaire now. But imagine the great mind that everyone had a good school to go to.
Right.
Or a family that wasn't stressed out, you know, and people, you know, there wasn't a lot of broken marriages, you know, in single family homes, right?
Right.
You know, just imagine how much better people that we would produce.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
you wouldn't have 14-year-olds out here.
I think that this is a matter. Another thing about you're saying stressed out and you know the level playing field. I think a big part of it is that people don't have health care. A big part of it is that mental health in this country has zero money in it for people who are broke or can't afford health care. And mental health is this huge problem in this country. And then on top of it, if you're just healthy and then like you're saying, you get a proper education, you could have some chance to actually compete with the wealthy. But as long as they're holding us down, not allowing people to have proper health care, not allowing people to have proper vacations, proper pay, it's never going to get better. And that's the way the rich, the 10 richest people, all the rich people want it. They don't want you anywhere near being able to compete with them or theirs, which is what you were saying, Brandon.
But it's so much gets destroyed with that. If they were so great and all their offspring was so great, then why isn't all the famous rock stars or whatever you want to call them, the movie stars, just wealthy kids from billionaires?
Yeah.
you know, like they never really had to struggle.
Yeah.
So they don't really have that desire. Like when's the last time you seen a wealthy person be heavyweight champion of the world or some shit in boxing? Never. They, you know, they didn't grow up on the street. But yeah, but anyway, Martha, I just want to say it was competition, man. I'm gonna get off this. All right, man, and you have a good night.
Hey, Brent, it's always good to hear from you. I hope you and yours are doing better.
Yeah, man, we are a lot better. Like my wife's back in college. You know, my college started this week, so she's back doing that. So
that's really good.
Yeah.
Glad to hear
She
it.
had it bad. Hey, she had it bad, man.
Yeah, that's
Sorry.
sorry to hear that. But I'm glad she's doing better. Tell Ty Mike says hi.
Okay. I will.
Okay,
all
bro.
All right, man. Take care.
You too.
All right.
And that's our buddy, 2 Bronze Star Brandon. And it's always nice to hear from him and from all of you. So, you know, the telephone number's up there. I know there's nobody in the room for whatever. I guess people don't care about the rich getting richer, or they already know this information. It's nothing new. The rich always get richer. But the question is, do they double their net worth during a pandemic? Is that the way things are supposed to be? That the rich double their net worth in 2 years during a time of I don't know, it's this incredible, I mean, lockdown, people not being able to go anywhere, people, you know, worried, again, stressed out, worried, not being able to go to school, right? These are the things that we've been talking about all night, right? Sup, Jay?
Hey, Mike, how are you tonight?
I'm fine. I need to get laid really bad. Can you help me with that?
I think there are online services
Ah.
that might be able to accommodate you on that.
I'll look.
But, that sounds like a good idea. If it's like, you know, if you have an itch or something, you should certainly try and resolve that if it's bugging you.
Yeah. Well, it's you know, I mean, I need to get laid real bad. That's all.
Yeah, I have been following the conversation. I don't know how many people are in the chat, but or on the call, but I have been following the discussion tonight, and it's a good one. I'm glad that you posted it. It's a really important thing for people to realize that, you know, the richest individuals in the world doubled their wealth in a single year.
It's been a couple years. I think it's a couple years, but I'm not positive about that. They said during it says during COVID-19, which has been a couple years now. So
yeah, I think Musk went from like $75 or $90 billion to over $200 billion.
Yeah.
In the last year, some number like that. But this has been happening for like 30 years. I mean, it has been accelerated in the last 2 years, but the growing inequality between the richest and the poorest people has been going on for, you know, probably more like 40 years. You know, I would say like the 90s, like go-go capitalism, you know, after the fall of the Cold, you know, through the end of the Cold War, and then all the money that was pumped into the economy after the 2008-2009 recession, that money went to the wealthiest people, not to the poor people. It went to the bankers and to the corporate owners, and they profited as everyone else like lost their jobs and you know, had tons of debt that they were just beginning to pay off right before this plague happened in 2020.
Yeah.
And then the whole, so it took from 2008 until 2019 for the economy to recover from all the losses that happened in 2008. And then, like business cycles do, it crashed again. And I think that the plague, COVID, was actually a mask to hide the crashing of the global economy. And that they had to kind of steer the economy, and the way they could steer and restructure the economy was by imploding the economy as cover, so that the governments could give all of this money back to corporations to keep them afloat. I think there's some
right. That's one of the things that I wanted to say was that you're talking about we're saying that 2008, the stimulus there mostly went to the wealthy people. I believe that the COVID stimulus, plan, was also by far went to the super powerful companies and such.
And they started pumping that money out when Donald Trump was president, about a month before the COVID crisis happened. And so the press, like CNN, they want to talk about the individual checks that were sent to the working poor.
Yeah.
And say, well, see, that was the stimulus, and it was all this money that we spent that we never had to spend. But that was just a tiny amount of the money that the government spent. And they have been spending money, like from the end of September, every single day, pumping billions and billions of dollars to keep, to basically keep like exchange rates floating, so that money is traded from one country to another country, so that banks and brokerage houses have enough money in their bank accounts at the end of the day to pay for the debt that they borrow every single day. It's called the repo market, is what it's called. And they were pumping, the government was pumping all of this money to support these gamblers, basically, to pay off their debts. And this went on before the COVID crisis even started. And that's why I tend to believe that the crisis is used to hide the real structural flaws of the economy. That these businesses, like Amazon, like Facebook, the big tech companies, the big media companies, big pharma, that they can't exist unless the government gives them money to exist. And then they make it. They don't fall. Brandon was talking about competition in a capitalist economic model. Well, how do you have competition in a capitalist model when anytime these businesses are on the verge of falling or failing, they get bailed out by the government?
Right.
Like the cruise industry, the airline industry,
AT&T, the auto industry.
Big pharma, all big pharma, Pfizer. Like, these companies would have a negative balance sheet if it wasn't for U.S. tax dollars being diverted into their coffers to keep them afloat, right? And then they shut the fucking economy down, in 2020, which hid, it basically meant nobody could compete with the biggest firms. So you had to go to Walmart, you had to go to Home Depot, you had to go to McDonald's. You couldn't go to your local coffee shop, you couldn't go to your, little tiny hardware store, you couldn't go to a little craft business that sold glass or something. You had to go to a place that was a big store that was like basically open and allowed to conduct business.
And a lot of those little stores went out of business, never to come back, which means the competition from the big store, from the little stores to the big stores, is completely gone now. Go ahead.
And of course, the biggest winner was like Jeff Bezos, Amazon, and other online, venues like Alphabet, like the search engines, and like Facebook, because people were restricted to their homes, so they spent all of this money online and all of their time focused on the internet, online services like Zoom, everything. So those businesses that are big tech businesses made a fortune. The owners of those firms made a lot of money. So the economy was intentionally organized in a way that they would benefit more than anyone else, right? And that also doesn't seem like a fucking coincidence either, by the way.
No, it's not. I'm sure it's not. I mean, I don't think it's possible for that to be a coincidence. So go ahead.
No, I don't think at all. I have one of the people who lives in this house with me, shares this house with me, is an Amazon warehouse worker, and she works the night shift, like from 11 until 6:30. And I haven't chatted a lot with her, but I know that she makes about $19 an hour, which works out to be about $40,000 a year. That's her wage, and she and for that she basically has to be like a robot, you know, in a warehouse. All the YouTube videos you've seen of Amazon warehouse workers, right?
Yeah.
They have a fob on their wrist that says where they are.
Yeah.
They're allowed, like, you know, a 7-minute bathroom break.
Right.
They have to work overtime without notice. Like, hey, you're working an extra hour today.
That's what I wanted to ask you about, if your roommate works a lot of overtime.
I don't know if she does. I haven't really had a chance to talk with her in depth about the job, but I do know that, like, she works regular hours, like 5 or 6 days a week, and I also know that these jobs for Amazon have been heavily advertised locally in Olympia, because we're close to Steel DuPont, which is on the I-5 corridor, and it's like a distribution center where, you know, for Amazon, where they can distribute their products. So you know, I know there was a distribution center in southern Illinois that was recently struck by a tornado, where the workers were working in the distribution center and they weren't allowed to leave the Amazon distribution center, and they also weren't allowed to have personal cell phones on them. So they didn't know that the tornado was coming directly towards them, because nobody had a phone that had an emergency warning system on it, you know, in their pockets. And nobody who was at the they don't give a fuck about these
right.
boils down to.
And it's not just a matter of not knowing that the tornado is coming. It's a matter of, you know, not knowing that your family is okay after something like that hits. You know, not knowing what neighborhood it hit. You know, if your house is okay. It's just all these things where, you know, here's this fucking basically terrorist event. You know, actually, it's worse than a terrorist event, because it's gonna wipe out neighborhood after neighborhood after neighborhood. So, and they don't give a fuck whether this is. I mean, obviously, it's important to your life, but they don't care.
So yeah, I don't think they care at all.
Yeah,
and that's because as a corporation, they only have to care about the bottom line, and that's profits. So all of these corporations aren't designed to do anything except for to make money.
Yeah.
And however they make money is that's why they exist. They don't exist to make people's lives happy. They exist solely so that they can benefit themselves as like that's part of their charter as a corporation, is to make fucking money. The average cost of a house in this community is like $510,000.
Is that Olympia? Is that Olympia or Tacoma, or is that what you're talking about?
It's in Olympia. It's in Olympia. It's $510,000.
And let me add to that. That according to something I saw a few days ago, the average home for sale in this general area, Seattle general area, has 16 to 20 people in a bidding war for trying to get your home, trying to buy your home. So
over market price, right off the bat.
Right.
So I mean, I'm just making that is, I think, $500,000 for a modest house is a lot, right? I mean, obviously. But the reason I mention this is because if you take it into the context of my housemate, right? She makes $40,000, and then you say you take 15% of that off the top for taxes, right? It works out to $34,000.
Yeah.
And then you take like gasoline and rent and all of those other things that people have to pay just in order to live, to work and to live, right? And you take another half of that away. So that leaves her with like $10,000 or maybe $8,000 of discretionary income a year. In order for her to have enough money to buy a house, she's going to have to come up with at a minimum of $100,000 in cash. And if she can only save $8,000 a year, you know, that's not even doing anything, Mike. That's just fucking living. That's not going to the movie.
Yeah.
That's not going on vacation.
Right.
That's just saving that much money. That she would have to save money, $8,000 a year, for 12 years in a row, just to have the down payment, so that she could borrow, you know, another $400,000 to have a note.
Which 10 years or 8 years, what you're saying is, you know, it's going to be double the down payment she's going to need by then. So yeah, she's not going to be able to afford it.
And that wage, like I mentioned that because the average wage in the United States right now is about $19.25 all across the United States. Like whether you're in Arkansas or California or Hawaii or New York, wherever you are, that's the base kind of the median wage in the United States right now. And that, you know, like I said, that works out to like $35,000 or $40,000 a year, right? And the average rent in California is $1,500 a month. The average rent in Washington State is $1,200 a month. You know, and the average rate, like in Colorado, is $1,200 a month. So if you and there's other, you know, there's like 10 states, like from Virginia up to Hawaii, where it's over $1,200 a month just to get an apartment, right?
Yeah.
So, like, the wages really are. I mean, this doesn't even take into account children. You know, I can't even imagine the additional burdens that Brandon and his wife have psychologically, knowing that they have to come up with the money, not just for themselves, but for their children. And when their children get older and they have expectations, like I have friends who their kids are going to college right now, and I don't even know what the fuck is going on in their head, like how they feel they're obliged to help their children out, how much that actually is of a burden on their family, and so on and so forth. And then when you compare that with like these people like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, who are worth in excess of $200 billion, when an average worker makes $40,000 a year in this country, why is that person so fucking special, Mike? What's going on?
Like I said, I would be I would be really happy if Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates left this state, because they're scum, you know. And so we don't need them, we don't want them, and they don't pay any fucking taxes in this state. Okay, if you look it up, I'm telling you right now, they don't pay shit. Go ahead.
I think we need to start thinking about a wealth tax, not an income tax, but a wealth tax. And you set it at a pretty high bar. You say, like, let's just say $5 million right now.
Yeah.
That if you have wealth in excess of $5 million, $5,001, for example, there is a certain tax on the assets that you hold, not your monthly or annual income, but on the assets that you hold. So these people are basically like doubling and tripling their wealth. Yeah. And it's just because they hold these assets that aren't taxed.
Right. Well, it's not just because of that, but it's a big part of it is that.
And that is a way, by the way, that wealth is perpetuated. It's also why the very wealthy are extremely opposed to inheritance tax. And I realize that the middle class, you know, they get a house from the upper middle class, they get houses and property and estates and trusts, and they want to protect that, and they're really afraid of the government taking their shit, right?
Yeah.
I understand that. But at a certain point, it just becomes fucking ridiculous, right? Like the children of Bill Gates, how much are they going to get in their estate? And did they earn any of that at all? Like, if they get a cool, you know, $50 million to start their life, and they have to be taxed on their wealth every year at $50 million, is that really such a great burden? Or is that so challenging? Is their life going to be affected in any fucking way? Are they going to be unable to stay in a 5-star hotel or eat in the finest restaurant anywhere on earth? No.
No, and a lot of them don't have to pay for it. You say, you know, I mean, I'm Bill Gates Jr., and you get given everything because they want you in their hotel.
With that,
yeah. What's that?
No, I was just making a joke about anything you want. Like, have any drinks you want, any food you want, just at your leisure. Nice to meet you, of course.
Yeah, and again, these people, you know, that own the big hotels and stuff, especially casinos. I've seen when I was working in Harrah's in Lake Tahoe, I would see people check in and they would have everything. I mean, they could go to the best restaurant in the place and order anything they want, and it was completely on the house, you know. So, and these are not the richest people in the world. These are, you know, not, at least the ones that I've seen. They're rich, but they're not the richest in the world.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can only imagine what kind of service they get. Of course, people like, you know, Jeff Bezos with his two $500 million yachts, $500 million yachts, they have their own luxury, you know, right there. They don't have to leave anywhere to, you know, go travel or do whatever, you know. It's just like, oh yeah, I brought my own luxury hotel with me, you know.
Yeah, well, that's like disgusting, and I don't even think that should be allowed to exist in this world. You know, that's like owning slaves in my book. Like the amount of wasted resources for that one person's fucking ego to be stroked. As far as I'm concerned, he can go fuck himself, and we can spend $500 million on building affordable housing and giving medicine to people who don't have medicine, and you know, doing constructive things, fixing our roads and bridges that are in disrepair, et cetera, et cetera. So this decadent consumption to, you know, to come off as the richest motherfucker in the world, it doesn't impress me at all. And frankly, I think he should be first in line for when they have the sweepstakes for the guillotine.
Look, like I said, I despise these people. I think our state would be much better off without them. And when you look at, you know, they make $200-300 billion in 2 years. You know, they double. How is it that they're going to miss? You said like 500 million. How is it they're going to miss $5 billion out of 200 billion that they just made in the last 2 years, right? They doubled their income, more than doubled their income in 2 years. How much you think it's going to be the next 2 years? Because it's going to be at least the same amount. So $5 billion goes to saving the manatees. Maybe it can't be done, but at least we're fucking trying, you know, or feeding the homeless, or whatever it is, you know. Like I said, these people can make giant differences in the world, and instead they're just accumulating wealth, which they're never going to spend. It's fucked up, big time.
It's about power and control. And, you know, earlier you talked about Medicare for all, that was mentioned. Like, what if everybody had medicine, you know, accessible to them, so if they broke a leg, they get their leg fixed. If they have a cough, or if they see something, you know, whatever, they have a skin disorder or something, they can go to a doctor and get diagnosed. Or if they fall down, they can have a brain scan or talk to somebody about what's happening to them, things like that.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why we have a private insurance system set up in this country is so that workers are forced to depend on their jobs, and they become dependent on their employers, who wield all of this fucking power over their lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you finally get a job, say you make $60,000 a year, you know, like, let's say like Pete, our friend from Rhode Island, if you're working as a chemist or something, and you get good benefits with your factory, right? I got great benefits. So that means that, like, when even, you know, 5 months down the road, you're like, God, this job is shitty. I don't like the corporate structure. I don't like the way I'm being treated by anybody. The culture sucks, right? But you have a script, a medical script. You have a regular doctor. And if you quit your job, you lose all of your medical benefits.
Yeah.
So you continue to work in a shitty environment because you're pressured to be there because you have medical benefits.
Yeah.
So it's used over the head of the worker. Whereas, like, if a worker said, like, you know, I get medical benefits because I'm a human being, and we treat human beings this way in the United States. So if you're going to treat me like shit at my job, I don't have to stay here out of fear of losing my right to see a doctor. Like, it's a form of manipulation, is what I'm saying. And that's what the private health care system is in the United States.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more as far as this being something that's held over people's head, as if you can't go to get another job because you're our bitch. Basically, you're our slave,
Yeah.
and if you go to try and get a better job, you're probably going to have to take a less quality of life because we're taking care of you here. We make sure you get to go to the doctor, which again should be like you're saying. If everyone had the ability and already was able to go to a doctor, then they're stuck in this shitty job. They go, you know what? I'm gonna find a different job. I'm tired of this. But they don't have that option now. Go ahead.
But without affordable housing, without affordable public housing or housing that's at a market rate, that's a fair market rate that people can afford, I don't see anything but debt slavery for the working class. And I mean like 70% of the people, like a lot of people in the United States. I mean, this isn't just a few people I'm talking about. Most people. Is they're in a situation where like 25, 30% in cities like where my brother lives, like in San Francisco, it's like 50%. People are spending 50% of their income for an apartment.
Right.
So that, all that being said, it's like people are in a situation where they'll never be able to save the money that they need to buy a home, and they're always going to be at the mercy of unscrupulous landlords. And I'm not dissing Mike. I hope he's okay. Hope he didn't hurt himself. But people will be at the mercy of unscrupulous landlords and people who own their mortgages, which are typically banks. So that means the banks have all this power over people, because there's no way that people are going to be able to afford that down payment. They're not going to be able to afford a mortgage. And the rich people buy up second and third homes, which means that other people can't even own a single home. One of the stories I watched tonight was in Maui, and it was about indigenous people in Hawaii, in Maui specifically, who can no longer afford to live there because of people from North America, from California and the United States, buying second and third homes in California, meaning that the housing market, which you would expect, is just like through the roof. It's like the most expensive place in the United States to live.
Hawaii.
And people who are literally indigenous people, like that's where they're not from anywhere else, that's where they're from. They can no longer afford to live where all their family is and so forth. So like they were talking to this woman, and she had 7 children. I mean, I would never encourage that, but she had 7 kids. And 6 of them had to move to the United States just because they couldn't find a place to live in Hawaii. That's what's going on there. And it's also going on here in like rural areas of Washington where I live, where people, again, are being priced out as people are buying, second and third homes. And it isn't even their primary residence. And all they're doing is jacking up the price of housing for everybody else.
Right. I see that happening too. And the thing about Hawaii is it's not new that it's been very difficult to afford. The last 10, 15 years, Hawaii has been very, very difficult. But yeah, it's really messed up that indigenous people to places like that are having to move away from their paradise to some shithole like California,
Yeah, a completely different place maybe than where they're from or where they want to be, and only forced there because of economic circumstances. And it's true for a lot of people in the United States. There's a lot of internal migration in the United States. Like the Rust Belt has been depopulated in a lot of places where people have to leave because there's no work. So they're forced to go places that they don't necessarily want to go to, but they're forced to go there at the whims of these huge corporations that are offering them opportunities. So I think the whole system is broken, and it's been broken for a long, long time. There's a lot of problems with America, our economic system, but also like the government, and the authoritarian government, the police state, which is real. And these problems overlap each other But I really think we've just kind of moved into this realm where the richest people in the world, and the richest people in the United States and the American empire, like, they run our government. So even though 70% of the people are poor and most of the people don't want drug laws, many of the people are opposed to war, and so on and so forth, those are popular views, but they never get heard in the government because the government is owned by the wealthy people who control our lives. It's so obvious. And, people would call that a totalitarian or an authoritarian government. I think that's what it is at this point.
We were having that discussion the other night. I definitely believe it's a police state. I definitely believe it's a authoritarian government. I think it's we were having the discussion of how to define it. I think that oligarchy is the correct definition. I mean, it's just like you were saying. Everything is controlled by the rich. So that's the definition.
This happened before.
Yeah.
In the United States too. The oligarchy is the right word. Authoritarian, is kind of like being controlled, but a totalitarian system where it permeates every aspect of our life.
Yeah.
And this thing with like greed, where like, why would a common person think greed is good, or why it's okay for Elon Musk to have $300 billion, or why it's okay to see all the suffering that they see around them. And it's only because they've been brainwashed, thoroughly conditioned and brainwashed from birth to accept everything around them as real. And that's a really amazing thing. I mean, that's like what happened in Nazi Germany. That's what happened supposedly in the Soviet Union. It's like where people are so indoctrinated that they just accept everything that's happening around them without questioning. And that's how it's pervasive, I think. We have like 1,000 military bases spread out around the world. And if you ask an average American about that, they don't even think about what the ramifications of that is, or what are those military bases for, or why are we doing this? Those aren't even thoughts that are coming into their mind.
I think that when it comes to factors like that, as far as 1,000 military bases around the world, that I don't think people even know that that's what's happening. So it's not a consideration as far as, is this right, or how much is this costing us, or anything like that. Go ahead.
So people also are conditioned to not ask questions.
Right.
To not realize that like there are 2 million people in our prisons in the United States, which is like 4 times or 10 times the incarceration rate in China or any other country we would call an authoritarian government, right?
Yeah.
We have the highest incarceration rate of people in prisons in the United States, more than anywhere else. But at the same time, we carry this banner around the world, the Jesus, cross banner. We're good Protestant Christians here in the United States, but we treat people like that in this country. So there's this like mind fuck that's going on, right? Where people are told like Superman is an amazing person. He's a cartoon character that like does good things, and Superman was used for like American propaganda in the 1940s. We were fighting the Nazis, and Superman destroys evil, but many people would believe Superman's just a great guy,
I don't know about Superman, but when you're talking about conditioning and people not questioning the way things are, and that they're supposed to, they're kind of hypnotized into believing these things, that this is the way life is supposed to be. It's not just that. It's on top of that, they also somehow believe that they like I was saying, they idolize the rich, and they somehow believe that potentially they could become that one of these days. At least younger people, certainly, and I think that that's a huge part of the problem. We don't want to take away from those people because maybe one of these days we'll be one of those people.
Yeah.
You're never going to be one of those people.
Which is like I'm going to win the lottery.
Yeah.
It's very unrealistic.
Yeah.
Is it impossible that you're not going to win the lottery? Yeah, maybe you'll win the lottery, but are the odds that you're going to win the lottery? No. you know, but I'm really brilliant. And then, so there's this thing where like anybody can lift their bootstraps up and pull themselves up out of poverty, and that's really hard for people to do. And in fact, I think the middle class, I have some numbers, but I think the middle class actually has been decreasing in the last 20 years. So that would mean more people are kind of falling into the lower class, like poverty, and fewer people are rising up into like whatever, the upper middle class or the wealthier classes. So that's the trend that I see happening, which is like when the story said 1,000 people, you know, people don't have $1,000 for an emergency, like a car repair or something like that. It seems to be like that's the growing trend.
Right.
And that's only, you know, people talk about like China becoming the largest economy in the world and so on. And realistically, from a global economic level, this is only going to accelerate, right? Like America as a nation and the leaders, these elites, all these greedy fuckers, this is like the apex of their power. They're not going to have this power forever, and because there are billionaires in China, and there is economic development in Europe and in Russia and other parts of the world, and we have been a pretty belligerent fucking country for the last 75 years. So at some point, it's just going to get worse, and that might, you know, like that, you know, Brandon was talking about crisis, you know, and if there was a crisis, maybe we could have change. I think if our economy completely implodes, and it's like right on the edge, like our infrastructure sucks, our people are hungry, living in the streets, people are dying of like medical malpractice left and right. You know, it's not a pretty scene. So there is that hope that everything will just collapse, and then through that chaos, you know, a phoenix will arise and we'll get a more positive change. But remember, in Germany in 1933, when the same thing happened, they didn't get positive change.
Right.
They got somebody like Donald Trump, but who was a little smarter than Donald Trump, and led them, you know, right to the gates of hell.
Right. Well, that's what I'm thinking is, you know, you're saying that this could be the change that we're looking for, the economic collapse. All I see is that there's already been an economic collapse since the plague started, and that the rich, the rich are, you know, made more money than ever. So I just see it as being exactly the same. You know, there's a bigger economic collapse. The rich are just going to make even more money, you know, and it's fucking not right. It's not the way. It doesn't make any sense that people would be allowing this to happen.
No, it doesn't make any sense, and it's a psychological flaw. Like, I don't know, you know, I've wondered this for a long time. Like, why people are really afraid of like the word socialism.
Yeah.
They're afraid of that word, and I don't understand why that word is a more scary word than having your life controlled by 5 rich people. Having you, right? Like, okay, oh God, you don't want the people to control your life. You want a couple of smart, rich people to control your life. That's better. And I don't think it is better. And just because like the government could determine things like our medicine, give us like hospitals that we can use without having special privileges to use them, giving our kids like an extra 4 years of education, because you need an extra 4 years of education to make it in this world anyway, so it isn't a privilege to get education, things like that. I don't see how that hurts the common person at all. Now, are there risks? I mean, well, look at the police state that we live in with these 5 or 6 rich fuckers running. I mean, this isn't that great. Like, I mean, I don't know. I think us having control of our destiny, having a government that we actually have control over, and having the government take care of the people seems to be a better system than the one that we're living in right now, unless you're one of those, you know, 100 billionaires or something, one of those 1,000 billionaires in the United States.
I see zero opportunity for the majority, you know, 90% of the people in this country. You know, like I said, there's not the health care that they need. There's not in the time of a plague, there's not the health care that they need. What the fuck, you know?
Yeah, with a Democratic president who ran on helping people get medicine.
Yeah.
Okay, or whatever. That was part of his program. But I'm beginning to think that my younger brother was right. He also thinks that he brought this to my attention that, you know, this COVID crisis really plays into the private medical care scam that was Obamacare, because everyone through their employer is forced to buy medical insurance by a federal mandate. And then when you have a medical emergency, that means that those health service providers that are paid for through your subsidy that you have to pay as your employer, you know, they're making a lot of money right now because they're providing services to people. People are using those services. So it's really convenient that, like, Obamacare happened, and now people have all these private healthcare systems that they're going to be using during a crisis.
Right.
Instead of having the government actually provide testing, or the government provide, you know, ongoing care to people who are sick, like elderly people who take this vaccine and are having adverse reactions, like letting them have access to, like, the government doctors that'll help them, just like Brandon has doctors through the VA that help him or his friends who are in the military. I mean, I think elderly people and poor people should also have those services, and it would just make all of us a lot safer too. You know, knowing that somebody doesn't have, like, tuberculosis on the bus or something because they're too poor to go to a doctor and get attention for their disease. It's not even safe. It's not good all around.
Right. It makes our society less stable. It makes our society, you know, and this is the things that I've talked about a lot. This healthcare is only gonna help our economic stability in this country. We have zero ability to compete with other countries at this time because of infrastructure. Okay, you've heard me talk about infrastructure again and again. You know, this is going to benefit every single person in our country and every single person to be born over the next 50 years and in our country. And we want to act like, oh yeah, I can't do that, it's going to cost money or whatever. Yeah, like, what is money for except for to benefit our fucking society? Go ahead.
I agree with you. I definitely believe that infrastructure needs to be repaired, and we need new infrastructure in the United States. My only concern is, and this, I think, I grew up in Illinois, and there's a lot of corruption there. Like, it's notorious. Like, New Jersey, it's corruption. It's notorious for corruption. So whenever there's, like, an infrastructure program there or other places to build roads, there's always payoffs, like to the mob, to, like, corrupt politicians, to sketchy concrete companies,
right,
you know, to the architecture engineering firm that gets paid like 50% more than they should get paid.
Yeah.
And Obama's project for federal infrastructure was very similar to that in 2009 or whatever. I mean, they spent all this money. They built, you know, they did some improvements at a local park here in Olympia. They put a water drainage in, you know, in a big park. It was kind of interesting, but it wasn't like a major infrastructure development.
It's not a real infrastructure project. This country needs a 22nd century infrastructure project. And the reason I say 22nd is that instead of 21st century, where we're at right now, it needs a 22nd century infrastructure project because it's going to take 50 years to build it properly, which means if we make a 22nd century or 21st century infrastructure project, it's going to be dated by the time we get there. So we need visionary people who are really thinking about what this country should be moving forward. And I see no one like that in our government, and not a single rich person talking about that. Go ahead.
Franklin Roosevelt, all right, was a visionary person, so to speak, who did that. You know, during the Depression, he, like the Works Progress Administration and other federal programs, were the very institutions that built things like the Pentagon. They built a lot of high schools. They built a lot of public buildings around the United States, and that was organized through the government. I don't think it was organized through private contractors.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, where like if the government itself would be like, we own the contract company, we own the equipment, we have a labor pool set up that's organized, that's fair, we pay decent wages, you know, and it's all set up in a way where nobody is profiting off of the building of the infrastructure, and it's going to be done in 6 years or 2 years because we say it's going to be done in 2 years, not because private contractors decide it's going to be another 2 or 3 more years at an added cost of so many percent or whatever. You know,
Yeah.
there's this lot of talk about how the private sector
Yeah.
is fucking efficient, right?
Yeah, there
when
should.
they tried to bore that underneath Seattle, right? Weren't they boring to try underneath the old Alaska Bridge or something? They wanted to put a tunnel underneath, and then the bore got stuck while it was boring.
Yeah.
Like, that's the private sector that always has cost overruns that they pass on to the taxpayer. This private-public coordination is supposed to be the most efficient way to do something, but it never is.
Yeah.
Ever. It never really is.
Yeah, I think the thing about if it was government, building these things, I think at least there'd be some kind of accountability. There never seems to be any kind of accountability when it comes to the private corporations, like you're saying, mobsters and crooked concrete people.
Yeah, those condominiums in Florida, Mike, that one condominium that collapsed on itself because of, like, crummy concrete. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
It was in the news last year.
Yeah.
A half of a building collapsed in, like, it was in North Miami Beach or something like that.
Yeah.
That's like people cutting corners and also taking profits and moving. It's all sketchy. So I would rather, if the government's going to do an infrastructure program, fucking do it. Let's build rails. Let's build a road.
Right.
Let's put up federal housing.
Right. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, that's what I'm saying when I say a 22nd century infrastructure. I mean, all these fucking countries around the world have trains that move at a proper speed, and our trains move at like 40 miles an hour. You know, I mean, in China, they got trains that move 300 miles an hour, okay? So...
over 20,000 miles of rail line, of high-speed rail in China, and we have 100 miles between Boston and Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and the thing is, if we have a proper infrastructure project, it's going to be this giant economic boom for America. Oh yeah, we're going to spend all this money. Right, we're going to spend all this money hiring people, giving people decent paying jobs, which creates jobs for all these other lower paying jobs and other jobs, salesmen, McDonald's workers, all these jobs are created by these other people. So it's going to be this huge economic boom. Oh, it's going to cost so much money. Yeah, we should spend $100 trillion. $100 trillion building the best infrastructure in the fucking world, and then we might actually be able to compete economically. Bezos, fucking Musk.
Other listeners might want to check out Woody Guthrie, the songwriter from, the folk singer from the 1930s. And there's footage of him writing songs in Washington State at the Grand Coulee Dam when they were building the Grand Coulee Dam on the Columbia River, which was along with Hoover Dam down in California, was one of the largest, engineering projects or something in all of the West. And that was done through Roosevelt's Works Progress Administration. So, I mean, there's a lot of examples of how the government, when the government wants to, the fucking Manhattan Project is a great example of that. Like, they built a nuclear bomb, and they spent all this money, and they got it done, when they said they were going to have it done, just like that. And there's a lot of examples of that throughout American history. But you're right, there is no vision, and the only vision that there is in Congress is where is the next dollar? Where is the next dollar coming from for the lobbyist or from the donator to the next campaign? And they spend all of their time on the phones raising money instead of looking for good ideas from the public. I think I don't know. I think some of the callers on C-SPAN could run our government better than the politicians that are running our government today. The people have the ideas. The politicians are obstructing the people from helping other people.
think that anybody who makes less than $200,000 a year or $100,000 a year could run our country 10 times better than the people we currently have. Okay, so it's not a matter of education or how much money you're worth. It's a matter of basically you being an honest person. And what I see is that in our government, we don't have any honest people. So it would be really nice to have some people that aren't just money-grubbing fucking cunts.
The thing is, though, is that principle applies, Mike, from the lowest level all the way up to the highest level. And that's what's so depressing about this, right? Like, here in my little city, like, you know, from the city council up to the state legislature, all the way up to the federal government, at every single level, the politicians are bought by wealthy people who have their agenda. So this democratic ideal that we have didn't really work out because it just ended up being corrupted by wealthy people. And whether they're Republicans in the countryside or they're Democrats in the city, they have the same amount of power over their governments based on how much money they have to spend. And as I don't know, I don't think you can have good government when people have money on the table. Like, I can get money from that contract. I can get money from that fucked up real estate deal that I'm going to get when I buy my politician.
Yeah.
I mean, it infuses this whole negative vibe into the whole process. So if people want to make money, and that's an important part of their life, the competitive nature, I'm going to make my fucking fortune. Well, let's separate that from government. All right, can we at least do that?
Yeah, I agree. I think
limits.
I think lobbying
limits
needs,
on it.
I think like there's no company over this worth over, let's say, $1 million should be allowed to lobby Congress. $1 million is probably way less than it should be. It should probably be like 5 million or 10 million.
Yeah.
But they should not be. Look, and no foreign entity should be allowed to lobby Congress. It's just because all they do is bring in suitcases of cash. And I just, that's not our government. I also want to say to NP that yes, an audit of the Pentagon is incredibly important. Not some bullshit audit like from government people. We need to have an outside serious audit. And people should realize, again, with this money, with this corruption, with this fucking pandemic shit and the rich getting, doubling their net worth in 2 years, is that the day before September 11th terrorist attack happened, Donald Rumsfeld, the head of the Pentagon at that time, announced that the Pentagon was missing $1 trillion, completely unaccountable, which really is closer to 4 or 5 trillion from what I understand. And and so the day before 9/11, $1 trillion is missing, and the day after 9/11, nobody remembers $1 trillion worth of money is missing from the Pentagon. So
there also was that building 7, right, that went down, that had all of the it had like the CIA was based there in New York,
right,
and the FBI, the National Security Agency, all of those
the
federal
SEC and the
based.
SEC and the FEC were based there.
And one of the stories that I heard, speculative stories, was that there were records from all of the money that they had stolen from the former Soviet Union. So like the Bush and the CIA, when they went in with their neoliberal economic policies and they got all these factories for nothing and they manipulated the politics of Russia, they raped that country and took, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars out of that country. And the receipts that showed the records of those transactions were in those buildings. I heard that story as well.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of like speculative reasons that would lead one to say why our government would some rogue element in our government would destroy those buildings and create this huge ruse to fool the American people to lead us into 2 fucking wars.
Yeah.
Fuck those people. Yeah, there should be a place in hell, And you see, that bugs me because I'm not really a religious
Yeah,
person.
I know.
Therefore, I don't really believe in hell.
It's just it's kind of a karma thing, you know, where hell maybe being that they have to come back as a dung beetle for the next 100 lives or whatever, you know.
Yeah, I can accept that, but the evil that they're creating is affecting people immediately today, like right now.
Yeah.
The impacts and some of these people are shielded from their actions. Like, you know, when an ordinary person does something, misconduct, or they make a mistake, they have to experience the repercussions immediately. But these people who are super wealthy, they can shield themselves from any kind of accepting any responsibility. You know, we see these people on Wall Street all of the time. They get fined, like, oh, we're going to fine them $50 million.
Yeah.
But they still have assets of $500 million. So you took a tenth of their wealth, and they get to walk scot-free for, like, the breaking rules and stealing money and misappropriation of funds. It happens all the time, and they never go to jail.
Yeah.
The wealthy never have to accept responsibility in this country for their misdeeds. And I wish that would change. I hope it'll change. And one of these days, that might change.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. All right, I'll talk to you another night, Mike. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Okay, Chris, good to hear from you.
You too, Mike. Peace.
I wanted to say about Building 7, which we were talking about just a minute ago, which collapsed on September 11th, 2001, the day after the Pentagon announced that they were missing $1 trillion. And then the day after, nobody remembered because it was September 11th. Now, Chris was saying that Building 7 contained the CIA and the NSA had very large offices in Building 7. Also, the FEC and the SEC, that has giant records when it comes to business in this country, had owned a couple of floors in that building. Okay, so this was, you know, CIA, NSA, secret agencies. This is one of the most secure buildings on the planet, right? You unless you got business there, you don't get in, right? So the most secure building, you would think it would be one of the safest buildings in the world, right? It's got all this important information in it. There is no way that building should come down under any circumstances, right? But on September 11th, Building 7 had 2 small fires in it, and it fell straight down into its own footprint, which is impossible, unless it's an actual, engineered implosion. Then it can fall straight down into its own footprint. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. It's not possible for it to fall straight down. We had 3 buildings fall straight down on September 11th. Now, again, Building 7, one of the most secure buildings on the face of the planet, which means, you know, it's built properly, it has all the reinforcements, nobody's gonna fuck with this building. Fell straight down. 2 small fires in Building 7. Straight down into its own footprint. And this is the most important thing to be investigated, right? I saw today, I'm not watching the news, don't get me wrong, but I saw today a story about the Supreme Court ordering Donald Trump to turn over records of the events of January 6th, right? So he's being ordered by the Supreme Court of the United States to turn over records about January 6th protest. Now, I cannot remember any time ever in my life, I could be wrong, you know, but I can't remember any time ever that the Supreme Court ordered presidential records to be turned over to anybody. Okay, presidential records are supposed to be very tight, controlled, you know, private. With these, I mean, we haven't seen anything from the John F. K. murders, right? John F. K. murder, we haven't seen the records on that. So, and that's what, 50 years ago? So, the Supreme Court orders Donald Trump to turn over all records, Donald Trump presidency to turn over all records involving the January 6th protest. Now, for me, again, I've never seen this happen. I would like to see it happen. I'd like to see all the records from September 10th, 2001 turned in, where Donald Rumsfeld said that the Pentagon is missing $1 trillion. I'd like to see all the records from that. I'd like to see all the records from September 11th. I want to see every single communication that happened on September 11th. From what I understand, Dick Cheney was sitting in the fucking Pentagon telling people he's sitting there with the Secretary of Transportation, I believe it was, whose name Leon Mineta, I believe that was his name, and according to testimony from Leon Mineta, the Secretary of Infrastructure or something like that in the United States, was sitting there in the same office with Dick Cheney, and some kind of a military person would come in and say the plane is 100 miles out, and then he'd come in and say the plane is 50 miles out, and then he came in and he said the plane is 5 miles out. Do the orders still stand? Right? This is what testimony from Leon Panetta, government secretary meaning like Secretary of State, Secretary of the Pentagon, important political person in a position of power, stating this at a congressional hearing. Dick Cheney said the plane, the military attaché, whatever, says, the plane is 5 miles out. Do the orders still stand? I want to see records from that. According to what Leon Mineta said, Dick Cheney looked at the fucking soldier and in a very pissed off manner, he said, of course the orders still stand. Have you heard anything else? Okay, I want to know exactly what that conversation was about. But the Supreme Court doesn't seem to give a fuck about that. They care about January 6th. Oh my God, insurrection on January 6th. What the fuck happened on 2011? Huh? We don't care about that. That doesn't matter. Where are those presidential records? I want to see every single fucking word fucking Dick Cheney said for the next 3 years. I want to see every single fucking word Condoleezza Rice said for the next 3 years. Donald Rumsfeld, George Bush. I want to know what these fuckers said, leading us into a war of choice in Iraq. Lying us into a war of choice in Iraq, costing us trillions of dollars and, thousands of soldiers' lives, these people who we're supposed to hold in the highest esteem, thousands of soldiers' lives, and tens of thousands of soldiers' lives when you consider, how many people were injured. Okay, tens of thousands of soldiers' lives. Based on lies, but what's really important is what happened on January 6th during Donald Trump's presidency. Not what happened 2000, 2001. 2000, let's take 2000. Let's go before 2001. Before Bush was president. 2000. How about the election? How about we order every single record from Jeb Bush, in the state of Florida, the governor of Florida, who just happened to be the state that made it so that we had to have, a month, 2 months before we knew who was going to be president, because there's a recount in Florida that went on for 2 fucking months, where George Bush's brother just happens to be the governor of the state. A coincidence? I don't fucking believe in coincidences like that. Okay? So, what the fuck is wrong with these people in power? Why don't they care about shit that really matters? Oh, January 6th. Nothing fucking happened on January 6th except for one thing. Okay? Ashley Babbitt was murdered. And nobody seems to give a fuck about that. Okay? That's what happened on January 6th. Oh, and there was a protest at the Capitol. That's what happened. Which has nothing, compares in no way, shape, or form to buildings in New York City. The most secure buildings in the world. Well, at least one of the most secure buildings in the world. fell straight down. The Pentagon was attacked. How come this is not top priority to get all of those records so that the people can know how in the hell, okay, Building 7, one of the most secure buildings on the face of the planet, the Pentagon, 1,000 times more secure than that, able to be hit by a fucking commercial airliner? We could shoot down a fucking rocket hitting the Pentagon, but we can't shoot down a fucking commercial airliner that we know is going straight into it? Of course we can. Of course we can. They didn't want to protect anything, any of us. They wanted the attacks of September 11th to happen. They being George Bush, Dick Cheney, Condoleezza Rice, John Bolton, Jeb Bush, fucking all these cunts, right? They wanted September 11th to happen. Now, we want to talk about income, wealth being fucking doubled, tripled, quadrupled. How much did Dick Cheney's wealth, his net worth, how much did it fucking, how much did it go up? Double, triple, quadruple, 10 times in the amount of time that the Iraq War went on? How much did Dick Cheney increase in his net value? Oh, I guess that's not important. That doesn't matter at all. We have to focus on what happened on January 6th because that's what really matters. Fuck the Supreme Court. Fuck the Supreme Court straight to hell, to jail, to prison, with every single one of them, every single asset they own seized, and they have to go to prison forever because they fucked our country just as much as any goddamn politician that has ever fucking lived. Okay, that's who the Supreme Court is. Oh, we have this liberal court. Fuck you. There's no goddamn liberals in our fucking government. There is no goddamn liberals in the media. You people who believe this are the most fucking hypnotized, if you believe our government or any politicians are liberal, any mainstream media is liberal, you are conditioned, you are believing the fucking, the propaganda wholeheartedly, okay? There's no liberals in our government, in this country. There's no liberals in the mainstream media. You can't possibly be that stupid. What's up with Iowa Blackbird Playground? Huh? What do you say? What do you do? So, that's where I'm coming from. I don't see, the rich get richer. Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, John Bolton, Condoleezza Rice. They're all billionaires now. They were not billionaires. Well, Donald Rumsfeld, I'm pretty sure, is dead. But they were not billionaires before September 11th, okay? And then September 11th happened, and they made more money than they ever dreamed of, okay? And people like Liz Cheney have to go to prison forever because she's profiting off of war as much as anybody's ever profited off of war. Liz Cheney is profiting off of war while she's a member of Congress voting for every single military action she can possibly vote for. Yes, let's go do that. Yes, let's go do that. Use the military for this. Use the military for that. She makes money off of it. I'm pretty sure that's illegal. So why isn't she in prison? Why aren't we investigating this Supreme Court? Oh, right, because you're a bunch of war profiteers too. All these people in our government, all the elected officials, the Supreme Court, they must go to prison forever. All their assets seized, their families living destitute and in disgrace. That's what they deserve, 110%. Hello, caller.
Hey, Max, how's it going?
Okay. Dave?
Love the topic, yep. Oh, excuse me. Yes, Dave in New York. I love the topic. 9/11 is perhaps in a good position right now are, people demanding those records because something happened that forced the executive branch to release any executive privilege over these types of records.
Yeah.
And so now that so if they want to save face, and if they want to say, well, this wasn't political, this guy did something really illegal here.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's really interesting. Thank you. I appreciate your cooperation, because that's always the stance of what it should be with the people, with our government. We should always appreciate their cooperation because we're conducting the investigation. And yes, we would like to see more papers. And if there is a democracy here, and it might die, if it does, it'll be because of too much secrecy. There's too much secrecy, and everybody knows it. The one thing they tell us when we're growing up, and they say, this democracy cannot survive without informed people, right? And we say, wow, that's a great idea. I really like that. We need to be informed. Yes. And they drill that into our heads. You guys have to be informed. You've got to get out there and get familiar with these issues. And you have to know what's going on. And, oh, that's great. Thanks. I appreciate that. That's really nice. Now, what about what's going on over there? Can we see that too? Oh, no. So that's where it's been standing for about a long time.
Well, I would hope that this would set some kind of precedent, although I certainly wouldn't count on it. And also, the reason that these records are being made available is because Congress wants them. And the last thing Congress is ever going to do is demand fucking records from September 11th. At least not in the next, 5 or 10 years.
There's a few people in there that would. There's definitely a few people.
I don't see them or hear them saying anything about September 11th.
I don't hear them, but they're there. I mean, I'm just saying. It would be really hard for me to believe out of 536 people. It was not. There's definitely a few that have spoken up about it. Kucinich, spoke up about it too.
Kucinich was very outspoken when it came to the war in Iraq, for sure.
Mm-hmm. There's a few people out there that would speak up if there's a bloc that is willing to take the risk. These guys were threatening death. They send anthrax. Okay,
yeah.
Please remind people. You don't think pandemics get released from labs? Don't forget anthrax, because it was directly mailed to the Speaker of the House of the majority, right? The majority Speaker of the House,
yeah.
and the Senate Judiciary Committee chair.
And it was also sent to news stations that were reporting things that are asking questions that weren't supposed to be asked.
Yeah,
and we're not talking about a virus. We're talking about a military grade bioweapon. Okay, and when I say military grade, okay, this anthrax could only have been created in a military laboratory, and the reason that is because this type of anthrax, if you put it in an envelope, when you open the envelope, it jumps. It doesn't just fucking kind of float. It jumps out at you, and that's what I'm talking about. This is a military design. It's not some virus that was released. It's a fucking serious. This is a serious weapon that was directed at people that were speaking out after September 11th and asking questions that Dick Cheney and George Bush didn't want asked.
Well, they were specifically lobbying their constituents and the people in Congress around them to not vote for the Patriot Act.
Mm.
So they were the two leading voices against the Patriot Act. And the Patriot Act allowed us to go into forever wars until right now. Right now, we're still in it.
Yeah.
We got guys over there all over the place.
Yeah.
And we've got unlimited budgets with secret little things and all kinds of secret shit that's going on all over the place. We don't know what's going on. We can't trust any news reporting from the Ukraine.
Yeah.
We can't trust any news reporting from Yemen unless it's raw video from guys who were, oh my God, the peasants did good today. But I'm just saying, you can't rely on media reporting at all. It's not even a thinkable thing. That was crazy.
Yeah, we don't have any kind of actual, real news media in this country.
Yeah.
If we did, you'd see actual alternative voices on the news, and we don't see that at all.
There's a few guys that get it better than others, but we don't have raw, we need raw data.
Yeah. Well,
we need to know what's going on. We need to know what is our government planning. What's your plan for the next 7 generations? Like, that's what the American people need to know about the government. By the way, that's where I draw my line. It's like, I need to know what your plan is for the next 7 generations. I don't care how often you elect this dude. I just need to know what's your plan for the next 7 generations. And we should be discussing that primarily. And then from there, okay, we can react to all these reactions to the world around us, but we need to make a plan.
We need a lot of plans. I mean, look, this infrastructure thing that I've been talking about since we started doing live shows, I mean, there's almost nothing more important to our country than this. It will create a giant economic boom, and it will give us actual ability to compete with other countries around the world, which we don't have now, and we certainly don't have a giant economic boom.
Well, we don't. Yeah, in construction, when it comes to our personal architecture and our construction and our infrastructure, I don't really see that as a competitive thing. It's great that if it looks good next to the others, then that, it's one way to measure yourself. But we should do it just from the simple aspect of create art here. This is a beautiful country. I mean, we should be creating art, not chaos. And so if you're creating chaos in this beautiful place, you're not doing it right. I totally agree with that, for sure. We're not, like the Golden Gate Bridge is nice. That kind of stuff. We do okay, but not anywhere near what we could be doing.
You look at some of the cities, I think Singapore, half of it is just like covered in greenery. Like all the buildings are they just have vines and all kinds of shit over them.
Yeah.
And again, this is this is how not only do we create the ability to compete with other countries around the world and the ability to have an economic boom, but also like Dave is saying, if we do it right, it will take a huge amount of stress off the people just because they're surrounded by nice things as opposed to this fucking never-ending fucking what do they call it, rat race,
I've always said this. Imagine if we were actually proud of our country and who we are instead of being embarrassed all the time. Getting into these stupid ass wars and doing stupid shit. But that's embarrassing. No, we don't want to be this. This is horrible. It's a horrible product. It matches what we're doing on the ground here.
Yeah, I think
it's chaos. Chaos and cheap construction, and just it's horrifying. We're being predated upon by insurance companies and police, and it's not. This isn't anywhere near the American. I don't think what most people today would conceive as a good idea for the U.S. I just don't.
It's not. It's certainly not what.
And go, oh my God, we're really screwing this up.
Yeah. Look at this. Isn't that complicated? The only real problem that we have here is corruption. If we just had honest people in Congress, we wouldn't have these problems.
That's right.
Gangs. Yeah, we'd have
got
people,
gang crime.
you know, pushing for infrastructure, explaining how important it is. You were saying about, you know, oh no, Chris was talking about the C-SPAN callers. No, you were talking about September 11th and believing that there's people in Congress who are, you know, willing to speak out about it. What I've seen is that every single time a member of Congress it has explained to them and is asked about Building 7, that they say, oh, I never heard of that before. Okay, and which is complete and utter bullshit because they're fucking tweeted 1,000 times a day.
Right.
How about Building 7? How about Building 7? And they act like, oh, I don't know anything about that. Fuck you.
I think as a person who tries to observe what these people are doing and watching their reactions from a security standpoint, I actually look at that and say, that's a security alert right there. That tells me that these people are afraid of something. And if they're afraid of something, then there's a threat. If there's a threat, then what is it? And that threat is pretty clear. There's a bloc in this country, or a clique, whatever you want to call it, an oligarchy. There's a faction that is definitely... that anthrax came from our lab.
Yeah.
It came from our lab.
Right.
And it wasn't the only anthrax leaked from one of our labs in this country in the last 40 years. There's been tons of them.
Right, but it's the most it probably is the most important.
Yeah. There's a block of military and politicals, whatever they want to call them, that have they have control of stockpiles of things, and they do things to gain political advantage with threats and bullying. And yes, that's what we're, basically battling against, I would say, and that's definitely what we're battling against.
It's just corrupt evildoers, and these people with all the money who own the corrupt evildoers. They're 1,000 times worse. So it's not that we can't fix this. It's a matter of whether or not we have the guts to fix it. Whether or not we're willing to put every member of Congress in prison, whether or not we're willing to step up and say, Jeff Bezos, doubling his net worth during a pandemic, 2 years, in 2 years, obviously he's not going to miss that money, because 2 years from now he's going to double his income again. So who the fuck cares? Take his fucking money,
When that's really what you said, is that's probably the truest thing about 9/11 is it was done with so much.
Hey Dave, you're like, you got to speak into the phone or something. We're having trouble hearing you.
Okay, sorry. It was 9/11 was done with so much arrogance and in-your-face evidence that we could find out after the fact that would just lead us to believe really basic conclusions. But that was a really arrogant move, and it was something that requires a response from the people where you say, hey, wait a minute, that's not good enough. We need a better explanation.
It's not just not good enough. This makes no sense whatsoever. What you're saying. There's 1,500 engineers and architects right here that are saying what you're telling us is not possible. Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So.
And military. It goes on and on. There's tons and tons of people, professionals. I myself got into it because I was a fuel specialist in the Air Force. And then I also have worked in concrete and, reinforced concrete for my entire life, really. I've always poured concrete. Rebar. I'm good with rebar. I do all right with it. But, it's crazy what happened. That's not true. Whatever they're telling you, the story they're telling you is not true.
Right. It's not that it's just not true. It's that it's impossible for this to have happened the way they're telling us.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not just that it's not true, it's impossible, and they continue to lie in your face about it every single goddamn day. You may not think, oh, well, they didn't tell me anything about it today. If they don't tell you anything about it, then they're fucking lying to you. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Dave, I gotta have a piss.
All right, Mark. Good talking to you.
Hey, I hear the weather's really, really bad there.
Not snowing for me right now. I've got, it's a little past the full moon. You got some nice light out here. I'm watching it through my backyard. There's no wind. It's about 9 degrees.
We're again, you're cutting out, Dave. Listen, I gotta go. I gotta have a leak. So
Bye-bye.
it's good to hear from you. Stay cool.
Okay, bye.
Which again, I hear the weather in New York is just like blowing sideways. The wind is just blowing everything sideways. So listen, I really appreciate everybody tuning in. Okay, and if you're not paying attention, I really want to have an important discussion here. Sometimes I want to just have a fun discussion. That being said, there's discussions that we really need to have. And I'd love for it to expand. And if any of you can help make that happen, please let me know. That being said, right now we're doing this on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Next month we'll go to Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. But right now, Tuesdays and Thursdays, which means we'll be back on Tuesday, same Mark's time, same Mark's channel. And until then, stay cool, because one of these days, this war is going to end. As long as people like Dick Cheney and Joe Biden aren't in power, and Donald Trump. So, stay cool till then.
Sometimes life can be a little overwhelming. Sometimes the weight of the world can be too much to bear. Sometimes you need to stop worrying and take a deep breath. Sometimes you need cannabis. Introducing Brightside, high-quality cannabis delivered right to your door. Brightside offers an extensive menu of strains and products to meet your needs. Choose the experience you want, and we'll send you the dankest herb, the real sticky icky, some top-shelf marijuana. If you like what we send you, keep the whole jar. We'll even include some nugs for you to blaze. As part of Discovery, you'll get to try new strains and products. Side effects may include euphoria, increased appetite, uncontrollable giggles, elevated sensitivity to musical dopeness, and reduced anxiety. Tetrahydrocannabinol may also induce feelings of existential well-being and relentless optimism. With a Brightside subscription, you can get it once a month, once a week, or whenever you want, all at a price you'll like. And yes, this is a real company.
Do you know who I am? You're the wizard.
Ask your doctor if cannabis is right for you. It probably is. Keep it Brightside.
No matter which mouth you feed on a two-headed snake, it still shits the same turd. But lucky for you, you have Mox News. More than 10 years. More than 60,000 videos. Mox News has been filtering the nonsense and illuminating the bullshit from your mainstream media. Turn off your TV and turn on to Mox News. For over a decade, documenting the socio-political events that have etched and carved the pathways that define today's modern mess, Mox News has been providing clarity while faithfully bringing you today's relevant stories 100% commercial-free and subscription-free. And just like Lady Liberty vows to remain free. But at this time, we're asking you for your help, your patronage, and your support to keep the lights on and the videos rolling. For less than 17 cents per day, you can become a basic subscriber, knowing that your donation is truly making a difference that will help continue bringing the news stories that make a difference in your life. Turn on, tune in, and drop a couple dimes today by clicking the link below or visiting moxnews.com and show your support at any level, From a single one-time donation or dedicated monthly subscriber, do it now in less than 2 minutes. All donations are safe, securely processed, and verified using PayPal, Visa, MasterCard, American Express, or Discover Card. As always, we're sure you'll find something of interest each and every day. This holiday season, give the gift of Mox. MoxNews.com.
I mean, this coalition of misfits, and they cobble together and they don't attack each other, they stay united. I wish the coalition of misfits, and they cobble together and they don't attack each other, they stay united. Coalition of misfits, and they cobble together and they don't attack each other, they stay united. Coalition of misfits, and they cobble together and they don't attack each other, they stay united. Coalition of misfits, and they cobble together and they don't attack each other, they stay united. Coalition of misfits, and they cobble together and they don't attack each other, they stay united. Coalition of misfits, and they cobble together and they don't attack each other, they stay united. Coalition of misfits.